When housekeeping discovered the bloodied suite at Miami's most exclusive hotel, they thought they had walked into a horror movie. The pristine marble floors of the Seabreeze Hotel were stained crimson. Shattered glass glittered like deadly diamonds across the luxurious room. What should have been a newlywed couple's paradise had become a crime scene that would haunt Miami Beach forever. But this was not just any murder. This was the brutal end to what everyone believed was a perfect love story. Have you ever felt that gut instinct that something was terribly wrong with your partner? You know that feeling deep in your stomach when their story does not quite add up. Have you ever ignored those red flags because you desperately wanted to believe in love? Maybe you convinced yourself that your suspicions were just paranoia. Maybe you thought you were being too dramatic. Well, Liliana Cortez felt exactly that way during what was supposed to be the happiest time of her life, and ignoring those warning signs cost her everything. Here is the terrifying truth that most people refuse to acknowledge. Betrayal does not just break hearts. Sometimes it destroys lives. When secrets pile up like dynamite, and when lies become a way of life, the explosion can be deadly. We live in a world where people will do absolutely anything to protect their carefully constructed facades, even if it means murder. This case exposes the dark reality about modern relationships. Behind the Instagram photos and the perfect wedding announcements, behind the designer clothes and the luxury honeymoons, some people are living double lives so dangerous that discovery means death. The person sleeping next to you might be capable of unthinkable violence when their world starts crumbling. Dante Levy seemed like the perfect husband. Successful real estate mogul, charming, wealthy, handsome, the kind of man that every woman dreams of marrying. But Dante was hiding secrets so explosive that when his new wife started asking the wrong questions, he made a choice that shocked even seasoned Miami detectives. What really happened during those final hours in that blood-soaked honeymoon suite? How did a romantic getaway turn into a calculated murder? And who was the mysterious woman in red who seemed to vanish into thin air after the killing? The answers will leave you questioning everything you think you know about love, marriage, and trust. Before we dive into this shocking case, make sure you subscribe to Criminal Mind Cortex and hit that notification bell. We bring you the most jaw-dropping true crime stories that will change how you see the world. These are not just entertainment, these are warnings. These are lessons that could save your life. Now let me take you back to where it all began, to a paradise that became a nightmare. 3 months before that horrific discovery, Liliana Cortez and Dante Levy were the couple that everyone envied. Their engagement photos had gone viral on social media. Beautiful, successful, madly in love, or at least that is what the world believed. Liliana was not your typical trophy wife. At 28 years old, she held a master's degree in international business and spoke 4 languages fluently. She had built her own consulting firm from the ground up, helping Latin American companies expand into United States markets. Her clients respected her sharp mind and her ability to navigate complex negotiations. She was the kind of woman who commanded attention not just because of her striking beauty, but because of her intelligence and determination. Dante Levy, 35, was Miami's golden boy of real estate. He had transformed abandoned warehouses into luxury condominiums. He had turned forgotten neighborhoods into million-dollar developments. His portfolio was worth over $50 million. When Dante walked into a room, conversations stopped. Not just because of his 6'2" frame or his perfectly tailored suits, but because of his reputation for making impossible deals happen. Their wedding had been featured in Miami's most exclusive magazines. 400 guests. A ceremony overlooking Biscayne Bay. Liliana wore a custom gown that cost more than most people's annual salary. Dante surprised her with a $20,000 diamond bracelet during their first dance. The perfect fairy tale ending. For their honeymoon, Dante had chosen the Seabreeze Hotel, a 5-star resort that catered to celebrities and billionaires. The presidential suite overlooked the turquoise waters of Miami Beach, floor-to-ceiling windows, a private balcony with a hot tub, a living room bigger than most apartments. This was paradise, and they were living it. On their first evening, they dressed for dinner at Oceana, the hotel's award-winning restaurant. Liliana chose a flowing white dress that caught the ocean breeze perfectly. Dante wore a navy blazer that emphasized his broad shoulders. They looked like they belonged in a luxury travel magazine. The restaurant buzzed with quiet conversations and the gentle sound of waves. Crystal chandeliers reflected the candlelight. Fresh orchids decorated every table. The menu featured the finest seafood flown in daily from around the world. This was exactly the kind of place where love stories were supposed to flourish. But even in paradise, Liliana noticed things that did not feel right. During their appetizers, Dante's phone buzzed constantly. Each time, he would glance at the screen and his jaw would tighten slightly. When Liliana asked about the messages, he brushed off her concerns with practiced ease. "Just work, darling. You know how clients can be." Yet Liliana had been around successful businessmen her entire career. She knew the difference between urgent business calls and something else entirely. The way Dante's eyes darted toward the exit, the way he kept checking over his shoulder. This was not normal behavior for a man on his honeymoon. Then she noticed the woman. She sat alone at the far corner of the restaurant, wearing a stunning red dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders like silk. She was beautiful in a dangerous way that made other women feel threatened, and men forget their own names. What bothered Liliana was not the woman's beauty. It was the way she kept staring at their table. Not casual glances, deliberate, lingering looks that felt calculated and purposeful. When Liliana mentioned the woman to Dante, he barely looked in that direction. "I do not see anyone unusual, honey. You are probably just tired from the wedding stress." But Liliana was not tired. She was alert, and her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. Later that evening, as they walked back to their suite through the hotel's marble lobby, Liliana caught a glimpse of the woman in red again. This time, she was talking quietly with a hotel concierge, pointing toward the elevators. That night, as Dante slept peacefully beside her, Liliana stared out at the moonlit ocean and wondered if her perfect honeymoon was actually the beginning of her worst nightmare. She had no idea how right she was. The warning signs had been there for months before their Miami Beach honeymoon. Liliana just had not wanted to see them. It started 6 months before their wedding. During what should have been the happiest time of their relationship, Dante began working late more frequently. His explanations always sounded reasonable. Big deals, difficult clients, last-minute emergencies that required his personal attention. But Liliana knew the real estate business. She understood how deals worked, and she knew that nobody needed to take private phone calls at 11 o'clock at night, 3 times a week, every week. The calls were always the same pattern. His phone would ring, he would glance at the screen, and his entire demeanor would shift. His voice would drop to a whisper. He would step outside onto their apartment balcony or disappear into his home office, closing the door behind him. When she asked about these mysterious conversations, Dante always had ready answers. "International clients, sweetheart. You know how time zones work. Just coordinating with the construction crew. These projects never sleep. Investors get nervous. Sometimes you have to hold their hand." His responses were smooth, confident, delivered with the same charming smile that had made her fall in love with him in the first place. But something in his eyes had changed. The warmth she once saw there had been replaced by something colder, more calculating. Then came the unexplained absences. Business trips that lasted 3 days instead of 2. Client dinners that stretched until 3 o'clock in the morning. Weekend conferences that somehow never appeared on any legitimate business calendar when Liliana tried to verify them online. The most troubling incident happened just 2 weeks before their wedding. Dante claimed he was flying to Atlanta for a property acquisition meeting, but when Liliana tried to surprise him by ordering room service to his hotel, the concierge told her that no one by his name was registered there. When she confronted him about it, Dante erupted with righteous indignation. "How dare you check up on me like I am some kind of criminal? Do you not trust me? Is this what our marriage is going to be like?" He turned the situation around so skillfully that Liliana found herself apologizing for her suspicions. This was classic manipulation, though she did not recognize it at the time. He made her feel guilty for questioning him. He made her doubt her own instincts. But now, on their first night in Miami Beach, those suppressed doubts came flooding back with devastating clarity. After returning from dinner, Liliana waited until Dante stepped into the bathroom before checking his phone. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through his recent messages. What she found made her blood run cold. Text messages from someone named V, recent calls to a number she did not recognize, calendar appointments marked only with initials and hotel addresses. This was not business correspondence. This was evidence of another life entirely. When Dante emerged from the bathroom, Liliana was sitting on the edge of their king-sized bed, his phone in her hands. "Who is V?" she asked quietly. The color drained from Dante's face, but only for a fraction of a second. Then his mask slipped back into place. What are you talking about? Give me my phone. These messages, Dante. These calls. What is this? His voice became stern, almost threatening. You are going through my private communications now. This is incredibly inappropriate, Liliana. She stood up, her voice rising with desperation. Inappropriate? What is inappropriate is my husband receiving messages from another woman during our honeymoon. Dante moved closer, his presence suddenly feeling intimidating rather than comforting. You are being paranoid. Vey is Victoria, my assistant sister. She coordinates some of my international deals, nothing more. But Liliana had seen the messages. They were not business communications. They were personal, intimate, flirtatious. Do not lie to me, she whispered. For just a moment, Dante's facade cracked. She saw something dangerous flash in his eyes, something that made her take a step backward. Then he smiled, that same charming smile that had fooled her for months. Honey, you are tired. The wedding stress has gotten to you. Why do not you take a bath and relax? We can talk about this tomorrow when you are thinking more clearly. Drop a comment if you have ever confronted a cheating partner. Did they make you feel crazy for asking questions? Did they turn the situation around and make you the villain? As Liliana stood there in their luxury suite, she realized she was not just dealing with infidelity. She was dealing with someone who could lie to her face without flinching, someone who could manipulate her emotions like a master puppeteer, someone potentially dangerous. The next morning at 8:30, Maria Gonzalez knocked on the door of Suite 1207. She had been working housekeeping at the Seabreeze Hotel for 15 years. She had seen everything: celebrities passed out from too much champagne, business executives who forgot to check out, couples who had destroyed rooms during passionate arguments. But nothing had prepared her for what she found when she used her master key to enter the honeymoon suite. The door opened to reveal a scene of unthinkable violence. Liliana Cortez lay motionless on the white marble floor, her body positioned near the sliding glass doors that led to the balcony. Her flowing nightgown, once pristine white silk, was now stained dark red. Her arms were spread wide, as if she had been trying to crawl toward the door, when her strength finally gave out. The room told the story of a brutal struggle. The coffee table had been overturned, its glass top shattered into countless pieces that reflected the morning sunlight like deadly stars. A crystal vase that once held tropical flowers lay in fragments near the wall. The expensive champagne bottle they had opened to celebrate their first night was smashed, its contents mixing with blood on the polished floor. Blood spatter decorated the cream-colored walls in a pattern that suggested extreme violence. The sliding door to the balcony stood partially open, allowing the ocean breeze to flutter the curtains that were now stained crimson. Maria dropped her cleaning supplies and screamed. Her cry echoed through the luxury corridor, bringing hotel security running. Within minutes, the suite was sealed off. Within 30 minutes, Miami Beach police had arrived. Within an hour, the most exclusive hotel in South Beach had been transformed into an active crime scene. Yellow tape blocked access to the entire 12th floor. Police officers questioned every guest, every staff member, anyone who might have seen or heard something during the previous night. The hotel's marble lobby, usually filled with wealthy tourists and business travelers, now buzzed with detectives and forensic specialists. The Seabreeze Hotel's reputation as a sanctuary for the rich and famous was destroyed in a single morning. Guests checked out in droves, reporters gathered outside like vultures, their cameras capturing every police car, every body bag, every devastated face. Where was Dante Levy during all of this chaos? Hotel security found him by the pool at 9:15, apparently unaware that anything had happened. He was sitting in a lounge chair, reading the morning newspaper and sipping coffee, still wearing the same clothes from the night before. When officers approached him with the news, his reaction seemed strangely subdued. No screaming, no demands to see his wife, no collapse from grief, just a quiet nod and a request to call his attorney. This was not how innocent husbands typically responded to news of their spouse's murder. As crime scene investigators began their work, one question dominated everyone's thoughts. Who could have done something this brutal to a beautiful young woman on her honeymoon? The answer would shock everyone involved in the investigation. Detective Alejandro Cruz arrived at the Seabreeze Hotel at 10:45 that morning, and he immediately knew this case would be different from anything he had handled before. Cruz was 42 years old, born and raised in Little Havana. His father had been a Miami police officer. His grandfather had fled Cuba in 1961. Law enforcement was in his blood, but so was a deep understanding of how people could hide their true nature behind polished facades. Over 18 years with Miami Beach police, Cruz had solved some of the most complex murders in the city's history. He was known for his methodical approach and his ability to spot lies before suspects even finished telling them. His colleagues respected him because he never gave up on a case, no matter how cold it became. The crime scene told Cruz several important things within the first 10 minutes. This was not a robbery gone wrong. Nothing valuable had been stolen. Liliana's diamond jewelry remained untouched on the dresser. Her designer purse sat undisturbed on the bedroom chair. This was personal violence, intimate, rage-filled. Cruz began interviewing witnesses immediately. The hotel staff provided crucial information about the couple's final evening together. The restaurant server remembered that Dante had seemed agitated during dinner. He kept checking his phone. He barely touched his food. When the server brought their dessert, she overheard heated whispers between the couple. The lady looked upset, the server told Cruz, like she was asking him questions he did not want to answer. The hotel concierge revealed something even more interesting. Around 11:30 the previous night, he had seen Dante leave the hotel through the lobby, alone. He was wearing dark clothing and appeared to be in a hurry. "I thought it was strange," the concierge said. "Guests on their honeymoon usually do not go out separately at midnight." When Cruz questioned Dante about his whereabouts during the time of the murder, the story became increasingly problematic. Dante claimed he had been in the hotel's pool area from 11 o'clock until nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. He said he needed fresh air after their argument. He insisted he had fallen asleep on one of the lounge chairs and had not returned to the suite until morning. But the hotel's security system told a different story entirely. Surveillance footage from the lobby cameras showed Dante leaving the hotel at 11:32, exactly as the concierge had reported. More importantly, the cameras showed him returning at 12:57. His clothes were different. His demeanor was frantic. The footage revealed something else that made Cruz's blood run cold. Dante was not alone when he returned. A woman in dark clothing entered the hotel with him through a side entrance. The same woman who had been wearing red at dinner the night before. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Hotel maintenance found a knife in the trash chute on the 12th floor. The blade was covered in blood that would later be confirmed as Liliana's, but the handle told an even more damning story. Fingerprints. Clear, identifiable fingerprints that belonged to Dante Levy. When Cruz confronted Dante with this evidence, his entire story began to collapse. His confident explanations became stammering excuses. His charm disappeared, replaced by barely controlled panic. "Those fingerprints could be from anything," Dante insisted. "Maybe I touched the knife when we were having dinner. Maybe someone planted it there." But Cruz had been doing this job long enough to recognize desperation when he saw it. Innocent people did not have elaborate explanations for why their fingerprints were on murder weapons. The evidence was mounting rapidly. Dante's alibi was falling apart. The surveillance footage proved he was lying about his whereabouts. And now they had physical evidence linking him directly to the crime. What do you think happened? Share your theories below. Was Dante the killer, or was someone else pulling the strings? And who was the mysterious woman in red? The truth was about to become even more shocking. As Detective Cruz dug deeper into Dante Levy's life, the facade of the perfect husband crumbled completely. What emerged was a web of deception so extensive that even experienced investigators were shocked by its scope. Dante's phone records revealed the truth that Liliana had suspected for months. Over the past year, he had been in constant contact with at least 4 different women. Not business associates, not clients, lovers. The most frequent contact was with someone listed in his phone as V Miami. The number belonged to Veronica Reyes, a 30-year-old model and part-time escort who lived in a luxury apartment in Brickell Avenue. When Cruz tracked her down, the pieces of Dante's double life began falling into place. Veronica was stunning, tall, dark-haired, with the kind of dangerous beauty that destroyed marriages and bank accounts. She had been seeing Dante for over 8 months, completely unaware that he was engaged to another woman. "He told me he was single," Veronica insisted during her police interview. "He said he was a successful businessman who traveled frequently. I had no idea about any wife." But Veronica was not just another affair. She was the key to understanding why Dante had murdered his bride. Financial records revealed that Dante had been funneling money to Veronica for months. Not just gifts or payments for her company, Large sums, tens of thousands of dollars that he could not afford to lose. His real estate empire, which looked so impressive from the outside, was actually crumbling. 3 major deals had fallen through in the past 6 months. 2 of his biggest investors had pulled out after discovering irregularities in his business practices. He was facing bankruptcy, lawsuits, and potential criminal charges for fraud. Dante had been using money from new investors to pay off old debts. Classic Ponzi scheme behavior. When that money ran out, he had started borrowing against properties he did not actually own. The house of cards was about to collapse. Veronica revealed something even more damaging during her interview. She had been pressuring Dante to leave his fiancée. She wanted him to divorce Liliana immediately after the wedding so they could be together publicly. He kept promising me that he would handle everything after the honeymoon, she told Cruz. He said his wife would not be a problem much longer. Those words sent chills through the entire investigation team. But the most heartbreaking evidence came from Liliana's personal belongings. Hidden in her suitcase, Cruz found a leather journal that she had been keeping during the months leading up to her wedding. The entries read like prophecies of her own doom. March 15th, Dante came home at 2 in the morning again. His explanation about the client dinner does not make sense. Why do I feel like I am losing him before we are even married? April 3rd, found a receipt for jewelry that I never received. Who is he buying gifts for? May 20th, I feel like I am being consumed by darkness. The man I fell in love with is disappearing, and I do not know who is taking his place. The final entry, written just 3 days before their wedding, was the most chilling. May 27th, I think Dante is capable of things I never imagined. There is something cold in his eyes now, something that scares me, but it is too late to turn back. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am just nervous about the wedding. God, I hope I am wrong. Liliana had sensed the danger. Her instincts had been screaming warnings for months. But like so many women before her, she had chosen to believe in love instead of trusting her gut. The motive for murder was becoming crystal clear. Dante was facing financial ruin. His criminal activities were about to be exposed. His wife was asking too many questions, and his mistress was demanding that he choose between his old life and his new one. Liliana represented everything that could destroy him. She was intelligent enough to discover his financial crimes. She was suspicious enough to keep investigating his affairs, and as his legal wife, she would be entitled to half of his assets in a divorce. But if she died, especially if her death looked like a random crime, Dante would inherit everything: her life insurance policy, her business, her personal investments, money he desperately needed to pay off his debts and disappear with Veronica. Betrayal had become his motive for murder. Love had become a liability too dangerous to allow. The forensic evidence against Dante Levy was mounting like an avalanche. Each new discovery made his guilt more undeniable, and Detective Cruz methodically built a case that would be impossible to escape. The most damning evidence came from the crime lab 3 days after the murder. Forensic specialists had found microscopic fibers on Liliana's clothing and under her fingernails. The fibers matched perfectly with a navy blue jacket that Dante had worn to dinner that evening. But this was not just any jacket. Hotel security footage showed Dante wearing it when he left the hotel at 11:32. When he returned an hour and 25 minutes later, the jacket was gone. He was wearing a completely different shirt. The jacket was found the next morning in a dumpster 6 blocks from the hotel. It was covered in blood spatter and had been hastily stuffed into a plastic bag. Dante's DNA was all over the fabric. So was Liliana's. Even more devastating was the digital evidence that Cruz discovered on Dante's laptop. Financial transactions that painted a picture of a man desperate enough to kill. On the day before their wedding, Dante had transferred $50,000 from their joint savings account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, money that Liliana had contributed from her own business earnings, money she had saved for their future together. The transaction was scheduled to complete the morning after Liliana's murder. If she had lived to discover it, she would have realized that her husband was not just unfaithful, he was stealing from her. Bank records showed additional transfers totaling over $200,000, money flowing from Dante's business accounts to Veronica Reyes, money that his investors thought was being used for legitimate real estate deals. When Detective Cruz presented this evidence to Dante during their final interrogation, something inside him finally broke. The confrontation took place in a private conference room at the Seabreeze Hotel, the same building where Liliana had died just 5 days earlier. Cruz had requested this location deliberately. He wanted Dante to feel the weight of what he had done. "The forensic evidence places you in that room during the murder," Cruz said calmly. "Your jacket fibers are on her body. Your fingerprints are on the weapon. Your financial records show motive. Your surveillance footage proves you lied about your alibi." Dante's hands began shaking. The confident businessman who had charmed his way through life was finally facing consequences he could not manipulate or buy his way out of. "You do not understand," Dante whispered. "Everything was falling apart. The business, the investors. She was going to find out about the money." His voice cracked with desperation. "I never meant for it to happen like this. She just would not stop asking questions. She found the bank statements. She knew about Veronica." Cruz leaned forward. "So you killed her?" Dante's composure shattered completely. Tears streamed down his face as the weight of his actions crushed him. "I panicked. She said she was going to leave me, take everything, expose the business dealings. I could not let that happen." The perfect husband had become a confessed killer. With his facade finally destroyed, Dante Levy's full confession poured out like poison from an infected wound. "She was destroying everything I had built," he said, his voice hollow and broken. 20 years of work, 20 years of building my reputation, my business, my life, and she was going to ruin it all with her questions and her suspicions. Detective Cruz listened as Dante revealed the twisted logic that had led him to murder his own wife. "I tried to keep her away from the financial records. I tried to convince her that her suspicions were paranoia, but Liliana was too smart. She was going to discover the investor money I had borrowed. She was going to find out about the fake property deals." The confession became even more chilling, as Dante described his complete lack of remorse. "I did not have a choice. If she exposed my business practices, I would have lost everything. Prison, bankruptcy, public humiliation. I could not let that happen." But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. "Veronica knew," Dante admitted quietly. "She helped me plan it." Cruz felt his blood run cold. Veronica Reyes had not been an innocent mistress caught up in her lover's crimes. She had been an active participant in planning Liliana's murder. Veronica said we could make it look like a random break-in. She knew people who could help. She provided the knife. She helped me clean up afterward. The woman in red at the restaurant had not been a coincidence. She had been surveilling Liliana, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "We were going to disappear together after everything settled down," Dante continued. "Take the insurance money and the business assets and start over somewhere else." His ambition and greed had consumed every moral boundary. His lies had multiplied until murder seemed like a logical solution to his problems. Within hours of his confession, Dante's empire collapsed completely. His real estate company was seized by federal authorities. His assets were frozen. His investors filed criminal charges for fraud. The man who had once commanded respect throughout Miami Beach was now facing life in prison without possibility of parole. Veronica Reyes was arrested that same evening at Miami International Airport, attempting to board a flight to Venezuela with $200,000 in cash and a fake passport. The perfect murder had become a perfect disaster. Their plan to eliminate one problem had created 100 more. The murder of Liliana Cortez sent shockwaves through Miami Beach that are still felt today. But beyond the headlines and the sensational trial coverage, this case offers crucial lessons that could save lives. The most important lesson is this: trust your instincts. Liliana felt something was wrong for months before her death. Her journal entries documented her growing fears. Her gut told her that Dante was hiding dangerous secrets, but she ignored those warnings because she wanted to believe in their love story. How many of us have done the same thing? How many times have we rationalized away red flags because we desperately wanted our relationships to work? When your partner starts taking mysterious phone calls, trust that instinct. When their stories stop adding up, pay attention. When they make you feel crazy for asking legitimate questions, that is not love, that is manipulation. This case also demonstrates how secrets can escalate into violence with terrifying speed. Dante started with small lies about business meetings. Those lies grew into financial fraud. The fraud led to affairs. The affairs created desperate situations, and desperate people do unthinkable things. Lies multiply. They create pressure that eventually explodes. What begins as minor deception can end in tragedy when the stakes become high enough. Liliana's death changed Miami Beach forever. The Seabreeze Hotel never recovered from the scandal. 3 months after the murder, it closed permanently. The pristine reputation of South Beach as a safe haven for wealthy tourists was shattered. But the real tragedy is not the damaged tourism industry or the closed hotel. The real tragedy is that a brilliant, beautiful woman died because she married a man who valued money and image more than human life. Dante Levy was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Veronica Reyes received 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Both of them destroyed their lives for money that never really existed, and a future that was built on lies. Their story serves as a warning. When people show you who they really are, believe them the first time. Like this video, if it opened your eyes to the warning signs that surround us every day. Subscribe to Criminal Mind Cortex for more true crime stories that matter. These are not just entertainment. They are lessons that could save your life.